Stadium is rich in history, with every room, hallway, and tunnel a gateway to decades of memories. Memorial Stadium is also a monument dedicated to those who fought and died in the World Wars. Walk with us, remember with us, as we look back at hundreds of magic moments at Memorial Stadium.
Third baseman in the world can make that one for you.
You are bearing witness to one of the most remarkable scenes maybe that you will ever see in sport. And the sign says it all. Goodbye, Earl, and you deserve it.
Magic Moments at Memorial Stadium is brought to you by Meineke Discount Mufflers. At Meineke, you're not going to pay a lot. By Texaco System 3 Gasolines. Texaco, the star of the American road. And by C&P Telephone Yellow Pages. No other book can match it.
Baltimore baseball fans hit a grand slam on April 15th, 1954. That's the day baseball returned to Charm City. The first time since 1902 and the first game ever played at Memorial Stadium. But the day was for more than just baseball. On opening day 1954, some 350,000 fans lined the streets of downtown to cheer on their new age Baltimore Orioles. The parade route stretched some 56 blocks from 34th Street down Charles, eventually winding its way east on Baltimore Street. Dozens of floats and marching bands led the way from the much heralded arrival of the team, dressed in uniforms and riding in convertibles. After a quick pass in front of City Hall, the motorcade whisked the players off to play ball. That game got underway not with a presidential first pitch, but with a flick of the wrist and a toss of the ball by then Vice President Richard Nixon. That game was just the beginning of almost 40 years of magic moments here at Memorial Stadium. Our field of dreams included stars like Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Cal Ripken, and many more. Presidents, queens, wild bills, and just regular Joes. We've all shared a slice of life on 33rd Street. Bob Brown has been with the Orioles since the 50s and edited the book, The House of Magic. He remembers the monster year Jim Gentile had in '61. He hit over 300 with 46 homers and 141 RBIs.
I think it was the best ever. I think it was even better. Frank will hate me for this. Even better than Frank's year because, first of all, it was the first. Gus Triandos had hit 30 home runs back in the late 50s one year, but whatever it was, 46 home runs, Jim, and 141 ribbies, only one behind Maris. It was a marvelous year, and of course the 5 Grand Slams, 2 in one game. That was exciting.
In 1966, the Orioles won their first World Championship. They shocked the Dodgers in 4 straight. Frank led the way, winning the Triple Crown. In 1970, the world found out what Baltimore already knew. Brooks Robinson was the best. He owned the World Series as the Birds knocked off the Big Red Machine. From the mid-60s to the mid-80s, the Orioles were among the best in the game. But the fans didn't seem to notice until the mid-70s.
I think it started in '77. In '79, it reached a crescendo because we won.
For some of us, our favorite moment came on the final day of the '82 season. Even Howard Cosell got caught up in the moment.
There's Harvey Dean over to congratulate him. And Earl Weaver is crying. And you can understand it. Very rarely has there been a scene like this, if ever. These people of this city, a city that has become a beautiful city.
That happens to rank number 1. Of all the games we've won and all the championships we've won, that one is still number 1, despite the fact that we got blown out in that last game. It was such a marvelous warm, loving response that the fans, you talked about Earl crying, there were 50,000 people here 45 minutes after the game was over, and they were still crying. And so was I. It was wonderful.
What almost was in '82 was in '83. On a late night in August, the unlikely battery of Tippy Martinez and Lenny Sakata picked off 3 Blue Jays in one dramatic inning. The Orioles were champions. 1988 was historic for all the wrong reasons. An 0-21 start. But when the bad birds came home, over 50,000 fantastic fans packed the stadium to say, "We still love you." 1989, and the Orioles nearly pulled off a worst-to-first finish.
It is a fair ball.
So many memories. Thanks, Brooks, and everyone else who made the days and nights at the stadium so very special.
My fondest memory of Memorial Stadium has to be the 1966 World Series. I think as a youngster, you always think, boy, if I could ever get to the big leagues and get on a team and win the pennant, get in a World Series and win, that would be the ultimate. Well, in 1966, that happened at Memorial Stadium, and I always said when that last out was made that nothing could take the place of the 66 season and the 66 World Championship at Memorial Stadium.
Playoff game in '73, I came out of the bullpen, I came in on the card, and they gave me a standing ovation, and I was so psyched. I said I wasn't going to walk any of the Oakland A's, and then I walked Campaneris and Rudy, and then struck out Bando, Reggie Jackson, and Darren Johnson on like 10 fastballs. Struck out 12 people. When I looked at my nail, my middle nail on my finger was black and blue because I was just so pumped up for this game, and it was the first time that I think the fans had really ever acknowledged that I was a real good pitcher, and it was one of those games with 12 strikeouts, and I think it was a shutout. It was just where I was very satisfied.
Brooks Robinson and Jim Palmer, 2 of baseball's greatest players, 2 of baseball's Hall of Famers. Now, there's a current Oriole, of course, who is a surefire Hall of Famer. He's played shortstop here at Memorial Stadium for the past decade. Number 8, Cal Ripken Jr. And like Brooks and Jim, Cal Jr. has his own special Memorial Stadium memories.
It's a good place to watch a ball game. It's not like a huge, monstrous concrete and steel structure that you get lost in most of the modern stadiums now. It's more of a baseball park.
A baseball park with special meaning. A park that's been home away from home to Cal Ripken Jr. since August 8, 1981, the day he joined his hometown team.
And there it is, a shot way back in left field. Fair ball. Number 21 for Cal.
Since then, he's hammered his way into the baseball record book with an Iron Man approach that even Lou Gehrig would love. Home runs, great plays, MVP awards, championship seasons. You want Memorial Stadium memories? Cue up the Cal Jr. highlight tape and let the good times roll.
Hit well down the left field line. It may go.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Hanging curveball. Home run number 26.
The first memory of this place was when I got the opportunity to come down and work out. I mean, I was a teenager. My dad had just got a coaching job at the big league level, and I was able to take batting practice. It was a really good experience just to stand on the field and kind of envision Brooks Robinson diving over here on this part, Belanger making this play in the hole or this play up the middle, Frank Robinson hitting the ball into the seats. I mean, those kind of things, it sounds kind of spooky, but when you stand on the field, those memories just start coming to you, and it feels really good to be standing in the same place at all those things that happened. The second one was probably my first appearance as a player. When I got called up after the strike was over in '81, I was put in the lineup, or put in the game as a pinch runner for Ken Singleton at second base, and I might have been the extra innings or it was the last inning, and Lowenstein hit a double down line, ended up scoring the winning run. When I first stepped out on the field in a game situation, that was a little spooky too, because you look around and all of a sudden the place seemed so big. The excitement that was generated, all of a sudden you were in the middle of it.
And Cal's been in the middle of it ever since, never missing a game here, there, or anywhere. His brilliant 1991 season's the perfect bon voyage to Memorial Stadium.
This community is a good baseball place, and I'm going to put back into it what it's been, that I've been so lucky to take from it.
The opening day, what was it, 1990?
Yep.
1990 opening day. A little cold down there. I think they were playing the Tigers. No, I don't know I'm not sure who it was, but that was a good memory. I had a bunch of friends down there, about 30 of us. right underneath the deck on the third base side. Sad to think that it won't be there anymore.
As your car ages,
most of the ball games that have been played in here, of course, have been baseball games. But on Sundays in the fall, until about 7 years ago or so, this place belonged to the Baltimore Colts.
By the time the Colts had drawn national attention to themselves and to the National Football League with the oft-replayed 1958 sudden death championship game against the New York Giants, they were well on their way to becoming an institution, a way of life with the fans in this area. Not that they were an overnight sensation. Years of apprenticeship in the old All-America Football Conference and more years of very limited success in the NFL laid the foundation for the explosion of fan loyalty of the late 50s and the 60s.
We were hot dogs then. we were really hot after that game.
Television was just becoming a big thing at that time, and it was much bigger than we ever thought it would be.
I remember that the very end of the overtime period, Unitas threw to Mutzler, went out of bounds on the 1-yard line, and NBC lost its picture. It went dark, went blank all over the country, and they tell me here in Baltimore a lot of television sets were destroyed.
That 58 championship game became the first of a string of playoff and championship games that lasted through the mid-70s. Good seasons, of course, come from good players. The Colts had more than their share of them. The Baltimore Colts have 6 players and a coach in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Lee Bubank, the coach, Raymond Berry, Art Donovan, Gino Marchetti, Lenny Moore, Jim Parker, John Unitas, the players. And the fans knew them well. They watched them play on Sundays. They watched them on TV Sunday nights and Monday nights on Corral and the Colts. And they watched them on pregame programs. And in the off-season, they got to meet them in person, pull up a chair at a banquet table and talk football with these guys who were legends in their own time. The relationship between fan and players was special. Take a moment or two and watch them play. John Unitas. Don Shula. Yes, he was a player too. Lenny Moore. John Mackey. Raymond Berry. Tom Maddy. Bubba Smith. Jimmy Orr. Alan Amici. Some were characters. Alex Hawkins and Joe Don Looney come to mind, and Art Donovan still making a spare buck or two, being a one-of-a-kind talk show guest.
Hey, but what does berated mean? That's, I went to college to play football, not to study.
We watched them 60,000 strong in Memorial Stadium week after week, and we watched them on TV when they played out of town. Sundays revolved around the Colts, and we organized our lives to include them in. A fellow named Hearst Loudenslager, they called him Loudy, took his devotion to the Colts to an even higher level. He saw that team off on their game trips and welcomed them back at no matter what hour, and he was rarely alone. In 1972, though, new ownership, one last gasp of pretty good teams in the era of Burt Jones and company. Then more quickly than the love affair had blossomed, it died. And next thing you knew, they were gone.
Well, a lot of people ask me the memories you have of the stadium. And I tell them, I think the greatest memory is just being able to play there. Being drafted by the Colts way back in 1950. I can say it because I'm the only guy left that maybe played with the worst football team ever assembled, the 1950 Colts, and then playing maybe with the greatest, 57, 8, and 9.
Was a scrimmage that we had in preseason, actually my first season, Horace, when I came to camp. George Shaw was taken down with the virus pneumonia, so I was pretty much the only quarterback in camp. And I walked out on that field, and I could not believe my eyes. It was just breathtaking to see 48,000 screaming people. in the stands for a scrimmage, for God's sake.
The Orioles might be the only game in town, but it was the Colts who first brought this stadium to life. John Unitas, Raymond Berry, Lenny Moore, Art Donovan, they turned this place into the world's largest outdoor insane asylum. Recently, the old dogs came home. Channel 2's Jamie Costello takes us back to September 15th for Colts Appreciation Day.
It's as if they never left.
Let's hear it for the Baltimore Colts marching band.
Chuck introducing the Colts band. The voice who said, Unitas, touchdown, Colts, to the band that brings goosebumps every time their horns raise to play the fight song.
I went back about 30 years. I got all choked up. I got goose pimples. I thought I was going to break down and cry, really.
The Colts don't play here anymore, but their memories do. On this Colts Appreciation Day, they came back. We caught a glimpse of Big Jim Parker. Ordell was here. The great Hall of Famer Lenny Moore.
During that era was a very unique period of time, you know, something that I don't think we'll ever witness again.
It's as if they stopped playing yesterday. Only our heroes are out of uniform. They're wearing sport coats and bandlines now. Artie was here, so was the greatest of them all-timer Johnny Unitas.
The people who were here at the time who came to watch the games were all pretty much the same age as we were, so we kind of grew up, you know, together. And it was okay for one of those guys to call us a no-good SB, but if a guy came in who they didn't know, they're going to get all over him. So, but it was fun, and we played. I mean, we went out and promoted the game. We went out and danced. I guess I danced more Paul Jones dance with more guys' wives than anybody in town.
This town, this city, this stadium grew up with the Colts. And if there is one man who can best describe playing in this palace, it would be the one, the only, Artie.
If I had played like in New York or Chicago, now who would know me in New York or Chicago today if I'd been a Giant or a Bear, right? But here in Baltimore, everybody knows you. You walk around and you're still like one of the big fish in a small pond. And don't let anybody kid you. You love it. You eat up every minute of it.
They will always be our heroes, for it's as if they never left. I'm Jamie Costello with the Magic Moment from Memorial Stadium.
Of course, as long as there was a team playing football here at Memorial Stadium on Sunday afternoons in the fall, there was a marching band who played for them. Every Sunday when the Colts were home, the Colts marching band would file out of this tunnel, march onto the field, and the place would go nuts. The fans would stand and cheer their football team. Of course, Bob Irsay ended that tradition when he moved his football team to Indianapolis 7 years ago. But the tradition of the Colts band plays on. For decades, the Baltimore Colts band has made beautiful music at Memorial Stadium. The band was founded in 1947, an extension of the All-American Conference Baltimore Colts. The band began with approximately 65 musicians and 6 American flag carriers. Today, there are 95 musicians, a 12-member American flag section, a 30-member flag line with instructors and equipment crews, bringing the total number of band members to 150. In 1984, when the Baltimore Colts tiptoed out of town, the band remained together.
Baltimore wants an NFL football team. We're dedicated fans, we're a dedicated city, and I think what we need most here now is an NFL football team, and that's our mission.
This nonprofit, all-volunteer charitable organization continues even to this day to perform throughout the country at NFL games and holiday parades. Band members are proud to be the official Preakness Band. Although the band performed during Colts Appreciation Day at Memorial Stadium on September 15th, one of its last 33rd Street concerts could very well be when the band plays during pregame festivities on October 6th.
Ever wonder what it's like to live in the shadow of Memorial Stadium?
Well, I know for one Waverly resident, life behind the stadium's been a whole series of magic moments. His story's coming up next.
What are your memories of Memorial Stadium? Here are some of your friends and neighbors.
Well, I think of the Colts.
Johnny Unitas in that particular era. And I've seen many a baseball game out there, which I've enjoyed immensely. And I hate to see it move from where it is.
Memorial Stadium. Little Stadium, a season to remember collection. The collection includes the official Orioles Stadium Bulova Caravel watch, the limited edition Memorial Stadium 1 troy ounce silver coin, and our hand-cast porcelain stadium replica. Each one a collector's item. Pick up the phone and order now. 1-800-STADIUM.
Cal, explain 9 out of 10 to me.
It's like this. 9 out of 10 people in Baltimore. Convenient locations and free consultation. Let's talk about it.
For 37 years now, Memorial Stadium and the neighboring Edner Gardens lakeside community have been peacefully coexisting. If that sounds like a long time, Channel 2's Mark Vernorelli is about to introduce us to a man who's been living in this neighborhood long before the stadium was even on the drawing boards.
Long before Brooks ever dove behind third, long before Johnny Yu ever lobbed a touchdown pass, in fact, long before Memorial Stadium was even a pipe dream, Otto Schmid was living the quiet life as the first resident on his block of Windermere Avenue. But you were the first one.
As far as I can remember, it's right.
That he can remember anything is pretty remarkable, considering that Otto Schmid is now 100 years old. When the ballpark was built, this lifelong teacher was already 63, which is not exactly the perfect age at which to welcome a ballpark as your new neighbor.
What did you think when they first talked about putting a stadium up there, this stadium up there?
Well, he didn't ask me. I probably would have objected to it.
But as Otto Schmid looks back on his first century, he admits Memorial Stadium never really caused him any big problems, although he says football fans could be a bit rowdy now and then. And now, after spending more than a third of his life a long foul ball away from the stadium, Otto Schmid is about to bid his big neighbor farewell.
What do you think now that the stadium's going to be torn down eventually? Are you sad?
Not particularly, no. Anyway, they shouldn't leave a stand. That's the danger. If they leave it a stand, that'll be terrible. Because if they take it down, then they've got to tear up all the streets and make a garden out of it.
That's what you'd like to see, a garden?
Oh, yes, that's if I live that long.
So where does life without a stadium leave Otto Schmid? Well, he'll still enjoy life with his lovely wife, who's just 80, by the way, and he'll still teach his weekly Bible lesson at church.
Athenians, I see how extremely religious you are.
No, Otto's not crying the blues. He's just looking forward to his next 100 years, stadium or not. Mark Vernorelli, Channel 2 News.
Doesn't matter whether the Orioles win or lose, you can usually count on smiles from one group of people here, and that's the crew of ushers who work this ballpark. We talked to a couple of veterans who've been working here and helping people since this place opened in 1954.
Reds Bertling goes way back before Memorial Stadium.
I grew up with it. I lived right across. I saw it being built. I used to watch brick by brick.
Jerry Siegel's another stadium veteran, dating back to day one.
Well, I've been doing this since '54, and I really enjoy it. It's been really a pleasure working here.
As you can imagine, after 37 years of helping fans and keeping everything running right in the stands, the ushers have seen it all, literally.
One thing I'll never forget as long as I live, the game was held up for rain. It was about the 5th inning, and they covered it with that tarpaulin. And I'm standing here, and I just happened to turn like this, and I looked around, and we had a streaker. Yeah.
Reds and Jerry say getting to watch the O's is great, but getting to spend time with the fans is what makes it all worthwhile.
You make a lot of good friends over here. You meet a lot of people that you thought you'd never meet before.
As they say goodbye to Memorial and hello to the new stadium, Reds and Jerry are a little sad and a little excited about a new adventure.
I'm going to be there for the first year, and after the first year, then I will make a decision whether I'll be there for a few more years.
And when you work in something like this, at the time, it's a beautiful stadium. Got a little age on it like everybody else, but I'm going to miss it, yeah. But that's progress, right, hon?
I say the Frank Robinson home run out of the stadium.
What's your favorite?
That's the favorite.
Tell me about, what do you remember about it? You were there that day, or?
No, I wasn't there. I was a young kid, but I remember it got so much hype in the media. And Frank being my favorite player, you know.
All right.
President. What if there was a TV magazine?
What do you think about at times like these? Don't just think about it. Or there may come a time when that's all we can do. Support Ducks Unlimited, leader in wetlands conservation.
Memorial Stadium, there was Baltimore Stadium. Army-Navy and Navy versus Notre Dame played to packed houses in the 1920s. The 40s brought the idea for a beautiful state-of-the-art stadium to be built on the Baltimore Stadium site. Even then, people couldn't agree on a name for Baltimore Stadium. Here you can see the sign, Babe Ruth Stadium, being pulled down. Finally, Memorial Stadium it was, a tribute to America's best who fought in both World Wars. Finally completed in 1954. Most of us are familiar with this view of Memorial Stadium, walking in for an afternoon of hot dogs, pretzels, and great baseball. But there's a whole side of Memorial Stadium many have never seen. This is the scoreboard room. Somebody punches the information in on these keys, and you can see it on the scoreboard. Here's the press box with the latest lineup information for the media. And danger, you don't want to go into the basement without grounds and maintenance manager Al Garceau. He says all the areas you don't see and the things you don't think about need a lot of attention.
A lot of tender loving care and a lot of work. You know, somebody breaks a seat, we have to fix it.
Not to mention taking care of the incinerator, trash chute, and furnace, all hidden underpinnings of the stadium. And this is what the birds see as they head for the dugout and then out to the field for the cheering crowd. Wait a minute, did we say players? Al Garceau says he's expecting new players in a couple of years, meaning new jobs to complete.
Hopefully I'll be marking this field for football again. You know, not just for University of Maryland, but also for, you know, for the Colts or a football team. You know, that's what I hope that I will be doing in '94.
With this Memorial Stadium report, I'm Horace Holmes.
Now that the Orioles are moving downtown to their new baseball stadium, The stands here at Memorial Stadium on summer days and nights will be empty. So what does the future hold for Memorial Stadium? Well, it could be the temporary home to a new NFL expansion franchise, and I guess we all hope that happens. But there are those who wish to see Memorial Stadium torn down and developed.
Office buildings, homes, parks, and maybe even a community center could sit on the 55-acre site where Memorial Stadium and Eastern High School now stand. It's an idea Baltimore City leaders are considering once the Orioles move their nest to Camden Yards. Consultants say Eastern would cost too much to renovate and should be demolished. But many people who live in the area want the old school preserved and the stadium saved from the wrecking ball.
There's a lot of sentimental attachment to that building in the community, and if it's at all possible to preserve it, we'd like to try to do that still.
Although the mayor's Memorial Stadium task force has gone on record saying Eastern High should be preserved, a final decision on the development plan won't be made until late October, and Mayor Schmoke will have the final word. Randy Page, Channel 2 News.
You've heard plenty of talk about Memorial Stadium memories over the past few months. Well, now let's get physical. Let's talk about the solid, tangible, material mementos of this stadium and of the teams who played here. Andy Barth did in this report of people who collect things and their souvenirs.
Memories rest between the pages of my mind. Memories sweeten through the ages just like wine.
Some people are casual collectors.
I have clothing mostly and mugs and keychains.
Some people are more serious.
Well, Andy, every time I go to a game, I try and go to the concession stands and buy 1 or 2 items. These things I just put away and I forget about it.
The best things in John Zeman's collection never were for sale. You can't go out and buy game balls and real bats and actually sweat it in uniforms at a souvenir stand. But both the serious and the casual collector are being targeted by the ARA folks who run concessions at Memorial Stadium.
There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of fond memories of not only the Orioles but the Colts too. Memorabilia is really a big thing today, and nostalgia, it's getting bigger and bigger.
So merchandisers are trying to capitalize on the end of Memorial Stadium, and not just with hats and T-shirts, though those are certainly available. They're aiming upscale.
We've gone to a limited edition of a lead crystal, for instance. We did a silver coin. We've done an embroidered rendering of the stadium, with over 79,000 stitches in it. And these are items that I feel that people will be proud to display in their home.
If you can't get to the stadium, where stands are only open during games, then you can order by calling 1-800, and then, of course, Stadium. On a slightly more modest level, there's For the Birds at Harbor Place, which stretches the frontiers of what can be made memorabilia. They'll happily sell Oriole boxer shorts, wrapping paper, baby wear, key rings, trash cans, shot glasses, playing cards, and ashtrays. And they'll sell a lot of them.
We've had a very good year, considering the way the team played.
But let's get back to the serious collector, people who accumulate for fun and profit.
In the future, it's going to be worth a lot of money. You got a limited amount of things being sold. After that, there'll be no more. No more. The mold will be broken, and things will be more or less memories.
But it would be wrong to think of John Zeman as a commercial collector. Like the people who took down the Berlin Wall, he just wants a shred of history.
I think everybody wants a little piece of Memorial Stadium eventually when the sad day comes and she's going to be torn down. Something to hold on to.
What would you most like to have?
I already have it, Andy, my memories.
I'm Andy Barth, Channel 2 News.
There was more to Memorial Stadium than just the action out on the field. Some memories are sad, some bizarre, and still others from a royal point of view. We'll also check out the ins and outs of running Memorial Stadium. We'll take a look at a day in the life of this grand old stadium next.
My mom won the home run derby. Brooks Robinson hit a home run, and then I got to meet him after the game behind the dugout.
Memorial Stadium is the 7th oldest ballpark in the country, with a seating capacity of over 53,000 people. Over the years, football and baseball fans have witnessed great feats of athleticism on the field. Although most of our stadium memories are happy ones, probably the saddest event in the history of 33rd Street happened on May 2nd, 1964. Ironically, the day was called Safety Patrol Day.
All Baltimore joins today in mourning the tragic death of little Annette Constantini and the injury suffered by so many of her companions at Saturday's baseball game. Would that we could turn back the calendar and with the benefit of hindsight prevent that enormous calamity. But we cannot. We can only resolve that such an accident must never happen again. And it is with this in mind that I ordered a complete investigation of the tragedy as soon as I learned of it on Saturday afternoon.
The escalator tragedy began during the national anthem. Dozens of school children rode up the moving steps in groups of 3 or 4, and at the top there was only room for one to get off at a time. With the steps still moving, kids began to fall backwards, getting crushed and cut by the claw-like edges of the escalator. It took what seemed like an eternity to shut the escalator off, when in fact it was only 30 seconds. One child was killed, dozens more seriously injured. The cause of the tragic accident was eventually blamed on human error. And what could have been an even greater tragedy occurred in December of 1976. A Baltimore bus driver spent the better part of a Colts game flying his small plane around the stadium. Just minutes after thousands of fans left the game against Pittsburgh, Donald Kroner crashed into the upper deck seats. Luckily, no fans were hurt, and Kroner walked away from the plane with only cuts and bruises.
Hi, I'm Rudy Miller. While there were other unfortunate incidents at Memorial Stadium, most of our memories are fond ones. Some had little to do with the actual play on the field. Here's a look at some of those special visits.
That's what I always hear when you sigh.
The most exciting moment of my life. I've just admired her ever since seeing her coronation on television. She's been my idol. Oh my God! Oh my God! It was so great. Cool. Yeah. I mean, like, she came all the way from England.
3-1. Mr. Vice President, you ever do any play-by-play?
I've done a little bit of play-by-play. I don't know how good I am, but want me to try a little bit?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me tell you who's hitting. Craig Worthington's hitting for the Orioles.
All right.
Oh, here's the lineup, as a matter of fact, right here.
The count is 2 balls and no strikes.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight?
I played against the president in an old-timers game in Denver a few years ago. He got the hit off of Milt Pappas, hit the ball, got the first.
And the left-hander delivers, and Pennington up with the grab. And how's that to get a season underway?
Orioles on second and third. Hit deep to left. Could be over Greenwell's head. It's
Oh, here comes Morgana.
Cal's going to get bust.
Morgana. Well, everything is happening tonight.
Did you ever see Herb Brooks at third base? We all know what Cal Ripken does when he reports to work here at Memorial Stadium, but how about the hundreds of other people that make this place go? It's a hotbed of activity, and there's seldom a dull moment. Channel 2 photographer Ted Holtzclaw gives us an inside look at a day in the life of Memorial Stadium.
What a morning this has been. Hey, they'll get the games in today. You see, temperatures today will be in the 70s around here. Once again, the low to mid-70s we'll be dealing with. Our forecast, partly sunny by this afternoon.
I'd like to buy 2 upper reserve and somewhere in the upper 30s.
But I did want to let you know we have found the tickets. You can stop racking your brain trying to find out where they are.
Without those 2 guys coming out of the bullpen. It's a nice place to start with those 3. Olsen, Froworth, and Poole in the bullpen, making a bullpen.
And you've got Flanagan also.
Oh, yeah, Flanagan. Don't forget the old man of the group. He's done an outstanding job.
Public relations, how can I help you?
We're ordering pictures from the family game. I'm missing one family, and I don't know if we have any shots of them.
Maybe he wants
and then you just stay on Herring Parkway till you come to 33rd Street, and you make a right on 33rd.
Hey, parking passes for ESPN.
Okay, or if you don't know names, I can just put MAR TV on the passes.
You're looking good out there.
Just no lucky.
Good luck, Luis.
Thanks, Scott. Listen, I have all this stuff in my hand, okay? I'll be back there after
The Red Sox had a real bad doubleheader here about 17 years ago in September, and it's I hate to say anything as crass as payback time.
The final season T-shirt.
Right on up, please.
Batting eighth, the catcher, number 20, John Marzano.
I spoke was being here. Get your pretzel.
What do you love about Baltimore?
The people.
The pride.
The seafood.
Have a hat.
The Colts.
Have a hat.
The steps. The entertainment.
The seafood.
The seafood.
Have a hat. There's a lot to love about Baltimore, and 9 out of 10 of you find your favorite things in Baltimore's favorite Yellow Pages. The genuine C&P telephone Yellow Pages. 9 out of 10 use it. No other book can match it. A Bell Atlantic company.
A full day of work. The kids are doing their thing. It's 5 o'clock, and it's my time to relax. So I want to watch.
Here at Memorial Stadium, home away from home to some of the finest newspaper writers and columnists in the country. And I guess John Stedman has to rank as one of the best. Stedman is symbolic with sports in Baltimore, has been for over 40 years. As a kid, he grew up just a few blocks from here, the old Municipal Stadium, now Memorial Stadium, and he covered virtually every major sporting event held here. So who better to reminisce about Memorial Stadium memories than Evening Sun columnist John Stedman?
The stadium was rarely used. It was called Lonely Acres. It was demeaned because nothing ever went on here.
When Municipal Stadium became Memorial Stadium, that all changed, and John Stedman's been there to document it. Orioles, Colts, Army, Navy, City, Poly. Stedman's covered them all.
The most dramatic night that I ever experienced in this stadium would have been the night that Maris went for Ruth's record in 154 games. Gus Triendos, who never took himself too seriously except if you were booing him, he said, "Hey, come here." So I went over, and he's catching Pappas and throwing it back, and he's warming him up, and he said, "You know one guy that don't give a blankety blank about what happens here tonight?" And I said, "I can't imagine." I said, "All the world, the eyes are focused on what happens and evolves here tonight." He said, "No, there's one guy don't give a so-and-so what happens here tonight." I said, "Well, who could that be?" He said, "Babe Ruth."
John, take me back, if you could, to when you grew up here.
I'd be walking home across the parking lot and headed to my house. I lived at 41st Street, and I would cut through Ednor Gardens, and there was a patch of woods. And every afternoon, if the Orioles were home, I'd come over the fence and watch batting practice. They had a coach, pitcher, utility man by the name of Ralph Red Kress, and he was coaching with the Orioles. And I came in here about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was pitching batting practice with nothing on except an athletic supporter and a pair of baseball shoes. Honest, I mean, that absolutely, and I'd never seen that before or since.
Baseball was Stedman's first love, but the Colts became his passion.
John, you've witnessed so many tremendous Colts moments here at the stadium. Just take me back, if you could, to maybe your fondest Colts memory.
I think that the most emotional moment where it really touched on the heartstrings would have been Arthur Donovan's goodbye and his farewell. And he stood at the 50-yard line, and he looked up towards the sky, and he said, "I know that there's a woman upstairs in heaven looking down upon all of you today to thank all of you, too, for being kind to her boy, just a kid from the Bronx."
And what about this kid from Baltimore? Well, he hasn't let the emotion of the Orioles last year in Memorial Stadium cloud his vision. For Stedman, like most of us, it's time for change.
The odd thing is that the Orioles and the Colts, when they were here, all they did was complain about the place, and now suddenly it becomes very fashionable to say, "Oh, what a great amphitheater of sports this has been." It has been a good sight, but it's time to move on.
We'll be back with some final thoughts right after this. Well, we've heard from everybody else about their favorite moments. You two guys have been around here. You grew up in this town, Keith. How about your special moments here?
No, well, a contest, but my favorite moments got 1975. The Colts played the Dolphins. They won the game on a Tony Linhart field goal in the fog, and we were sitting in the right field bleachers, and you couldn't see the ball go through the uprights, but you could hear the roar. We knew who had won. Great moment for me.
Jack, you've been covering games here since the late 50s.
Yeah, and I'm not original when it comes to the biggest moment for me in Memorial Stadium. Game 4, 1966 World Series. Driving down 33rd Street, and somebody had erected a billboard in the space in between the roads. What do you call it? The median strip. And it said, "Would you believe for straight?" And nobody would.
And they did, and that's absolutely the most hair-raising moment in this.
How about yours?
I haven't been around quite as long as you guys. I can remember as a kid, I was a Packer fan watching Paul Hornung score 5 touchdowns in the fog against the Colts. That was in '65. Yeah. But I think since I've been here, the 1982 final game of the season, the Orioles against the Brewers for the whole ball of wax. Earl standing at home plate with the tears in his eyes. The stadium full. Nobody would leave. That's my special.
Yeah, that's my favorite Orioles memory.
Yeah. We hope you've enjoyed our look at Memorial Stadium, the memories, and I know you've got your very own. We've all shared a lot of good times at this place. Thanks for joining us.
Magic Moments at Memorial Stadium has been brought to you by Meineke. At Meineke, you're not going to pay a lot. By Texaco System 3 Gasolines. Texaco, the star of the American road. And by C&P Telephone, a Bell Atlantic company. We're more than just talk.
As I took my seat for one last time, all the memories we made here were filling my mind of the warm summer nights when my father and I would watch the Orioles play. It was here that I first saw my favorite team and the players we all pretended to be. Where the sun always shines and the grass is so green, and I dream I would play here someday. I saw all my childhood here